The 7th of October for me um, was an experience that I felt like mm, touching on things that I experienced before, and the understanding that to speak up is the right thing to do, because not speaking up will not save you, was very prevalent. If the imminence and immediacy of very horrible death um, was extremely close. And the understanding, if something bothers me, I tend to the core of what bothers me and I speak up. The core, not the flag, not the culture, not the religion, the core. Um, and it's something that a lot of things that I have been through in life, like many have been through. I didn't go through something that was this special. Yes, this tried to kidnap me when I was a child. Many children, it happened to them. Some of them are not even aware of this. Yes, I went through like what you would say abusive, a narcissistic connection. We were both abusive because we did not have communication skills and anything skills, and we did not have the leverage of space to develop these. Okay. Um, and the Me Too related issues, most people go through such things. So it wasn't so unique. Okay. Those things that I dealt with, and even things like, psychic attack and stuff like that, many people deal with that. 7th of October, the entire country was hearing voices. The difference being is that if you dealt with that before that, you could set boundaries, as some of you, those who are not on a prescription. But this is not about the people. It's about, whether you had this access to that information, to that skill or not. Were you exposed to that? So I went through difficulties with job conditions and health, which I talk about. Again, everybody goes through this. This is why I learned to be a holistic health practitioner. So instead of arguing with you as my colleague, I meet you when you have an ailment, and we look at when it started, what happened in your life, what do you believe about this, kind of like how you build your dream life, and we get at it at how you build your dream life and connecting you back to your vision, to your creativity, rather than, shaming or bashing or arguing or and I told you so. Um, but to me, the 7th of October was a very clear understanding that not speaking up, and I have been outspoken, but like not speaking up is not going to save you. And again, maybe to some people it's not true. Okay, it's not a prescription. Um, Not living your dreams is not going to save you. It's something I've always been advocating for. It's easier said than done, also for me. Um, Not tackling those issues that are frightening to tackle is not going to keep you safe from those fates that you're concerned about. So if you're concerned about something, and I'll use a meme that Donald Trump is excellent at creating memes. And he said, if I'm not elected, there will be a bloodbath. And like many people, they said, well, it's also if you are elected. So, But this is exactly where it is. No, I just said, Donald Trump is practicing democracy today, but Donald Trump is not doing anything other than embellishing on personal politics, which is something that we need to touch on. I actually had a dream to do with that. That some world leader was on their Twitter. Oh my God, I will say that. I won't say what leader, but it was like a leader was on the Twitter and they were publishing a meme that they were checking the followers of another world leader, and they were addressing actually our government, but they were being hilarious about this. So this leader was checking, like, the government said, "Oh, this person only has so and so followers," and they were looking at their pens, kind of like comparing. And my reaction was like, "My God, you mastered personal politics," and this is exactly what's being done when with celebrity culture and so on and so forth. So we run into politics in that way. Um, but those declarations that we hear, those extremified characters, this is because people want to see a show, and there's more to it. Um, but definitely, the reality of um, those type of life endings and lives being so close to the reality of the person, they got me to understand that if you wanna go speaking up. It's not if you want to go. It's like you rather speak up. Those things you're afraid it will happen to you. It's not about you. If you don't speak up, it's not going to necessarily not happen. If you do speak up, there is a chance that you'll be a part of a greater awakening that will interfere in the fabric of time, or it is even fated. Right now, I talked about this yesterday in my video. It is fated for us to talk about such things. Um, so for me, it is the topic of abolishing the practice of expendable children and all across the board exploitation of children, whether it's child marriage, some religions or non-religions, or pedo rings that are at the upper echelons of our society. So much so that in many roles, public roles, it's even not possible to be in that role if you're not a member of some sort of ring that does some sort of crime. And because the crimes to do with children are the most, um, the most terrifying, then if somebody did such a thing, then whoever is aware of this, that they did that thing, and maybe sent them to do this thing, then they can have a card of exposure. You expose somebody for doing that and you have evidence. Immediately, they're no longer holding that role. And so this is how those who hold these, rings, and even exposing the people who kind of like operate these rings, like the Epstein story, um, is kind of like a cookie handed to the people. Here, look, you get the Epstein list. Wow, okay, it's everywhere. So I think this is going to be playing a huge part in Pluto's final ingress into Capricorn and then the ingress back to Aquarius. Um, and I think that raising awareness and speaking up about this and understanding that those things also happen in the name of medicine, in the name of religion, in the name of welfare, um, and so on and so forth. And they happen not only when there is a war. It's not just to bring them home. It's to bring everyone, and to have them have housing and to have them have a life to return to. Such people that went to such things, and it's even a lot of the people that you don't even suspect. It's very likely that somebody tried to kidnap you when you were a child. It's highly unlikely that you weren't surrounded at least once by a case where even if you didn't know, somebody was trying to do this. How this affects us as adults? Yes, because our nervous system is affected, not only by the toxins and by this, absolutely, but also by our surroundings, and doesn't always have an expression that is visible to us in the physical world. It's like, I feel weird in this place and I don't know why. And that's what's up. So but another thing that happened around the events was the growing relevance of the issue of death with dignity and the passages of the beginning and the endings of life, and how the playing around with those type of transits, whether in medicine, whether in this, but it affects all of us through the nervous system, for example. And also it creates logics that are very weird. For example, if child exploitation is being practiced, okay, in a community or a tribe where many children are wed at young age, and of course they are raped, you cannot have sex with a child. And also globalists, they do washing around sexual education. I did sexual education. This is not sexual education. So when those things happen, what happens to the child is that first of all they may develop DID. Okay. This can also be done culturally and psychologically. Years ago, I met a person who was actually a very beautiful person, except that he was indoctrinated to have annoyance around the word I. He was probably taught not to say I, or to say people, or he thought it was that using the word I is selfish, and this is incredibly destructive. And so you may not like a person, but if what you don't like is the use of the word I, and of course with that I came a you, okay? So it forced him to have identity and accountability. Wow, these planes are intense today and yesterday. So during the night, I heard a plane that sounded like a Boeing, but it sounded like a battle Boeing, and I just couldn't help but thinking, hey, this thing holds bombs that could probably kill an entire Boeing city. Boeing can hold, I think, up to 300 people. So that was like, yikes, maybe even way more. And so that was unusual. The planes, the combat planes, they go over our head. They've been going over our head for years, okay? So they go over our head, and to hear such big explosives, you hear them because it has mass. You don't hear them drop, but you hear them carried. It has mass. And so it's just very intense, very intense energy as well. And very, very intense rage. Very intense rage. That's what's up. So, and you know that they are just doing this because they have an Agenda 2030 and they want to build those cities that people wouldn't want to live in, because anything, whether it's medical or whatnot, if they have to force it, then you know it's not good for you, right? And this was planned for decades. So it's not about COVID and not about the Middle East or whatnot. Oil flows like water in the Middle East. Yeah. And so the indoctrination of people to dislike the word I am or to think of it as selfish is incredibly harmful because, and again, an I am that has a you are. Because if I say I am, then I say you. If I say I, then I say you. When I address you, I don't say people. I don't say we. Because there is an I and there is a you. We're distinct. And funnily enough, with that person, they were very passionate about their own authentic original self. So, and again, this is not, you know, it's not laughing at them, it's looking at a situation that has a cultural context that is very relevant for our days. And I talked about Neptune in Aries and the longing for identity or shaming people for having an I am. It's not selfish to say I am, especially not that with the I am comes a you are. I am is actually holding an accountability. Okay, I feel so and so, I believe so and so. I like this, I don't like this. Okay, this is where this is where we actually begin to communicate. So I think a lot of people have these urgency and sense of urgency to speak, to express, and is good. And tending to the core of the issue um, is becoming more and more important. Okay, because there's a lot of diversion tactics, but it's also true that the use of power, exercising power, is basically causing dissolution, okay, of the legitimacy over the monopoly on the power. And this is true worldwide. This is what is happening right now. Okay, there is a tremendous exercise of power that is causing loss of legitimacy over the monopoly on the power worldwide. So those who exercise violence against you, they are dissolving their own legitimacy and their own power. And you see that more and more. At first they said, oh, come take this free shot. And this free shot was not vaccine. Okay? And whether vaccine are useful, not useful, there are some things that were abolished by vaccines. I'm not saying that there was not a warfare, but there were some vaccines that were vaccines. Okay? You like them, not like me, maybe disagree with that too, okay? But this was not vaccine. And so with the masking and of course to create something viral or pandemic, then it is a good masquerade. But this was not new. The entire way, just the fact that CPTSD, I think, is not even present in the DSM, which is the Psychiatric Evaluation and Diagnosis Bible, pretty much, shows us. It's not that the awareness of how to create traumatic events and shock was not there. It's just that they were diagnosed as identity disorders. And indeed, they do cause fracturing in identities. Okay? Like did is not imagined. And the models for therapy, so you would have models that hit the spot and models that don't hit the spot, and the play just around any healing therapy, but also medical model is a play of warfare and control and not a play of health. Now, of course, it's not like this in the beginning. Okay, in the beginning, you're being treated well, maybe, You're being included where you weren't included, like the LGBTQ, and it's kind of like you're getting some cookies of acknowledgement, so that you will agree to. Okay, and so the only way to get a grant, for example, for higher studies, is to be some sort of victim of something. Yes, but the road to, if you haven't had intergenerational wealth, the road to study and make something with your life, I don't know, is not open unless you're a victim of something, or you have the intergenerational wealth, or you're a victim of something. Okay, so marginalized groups, or this or that, and there's nothing bad about, corrective ways like this, is that that cannot be instead of having the road open to you to have working conditions that are compatible with your health and compatible with doing a degree, for example. But if you look at what is going on in the degrees, it's another can of wasps. so so um, uh, that is also relevant, and this is how you get Palestinian people who do not have the education to combat Israeli Hasbara, because they were taught that German people did not die in the Second World War, German civilians did not die in the Second World War. Um, if you don't have, and there's students in Harvard and Stanford, we get people painting from the river to the sea, with the sea in the Jordan River, and this is a Stanford. Okay, so this is not the people or the students, it is the indoctrinated lack of education that's indoctrinated to Ivy League, okay, to the cream de la cream of higher education. So if you want to send your children to a good school, they will end up putting the Mediterranean Sea in the Jordan River, and calling this pro-Palestine. Okay, you cannot have the best arguments to even bring to the forefront, and argue for their position, which is necessary for good diplomacy. Um, so, and that, of course, is not, other peoples are not exempt from that. If you haven't studied that the rise of nationalism happened before World War II, it's not just the rise of ideology, and that Franz von der France for the French was a saying of the French Revolution. So I understand that the French Revolution was nationalist. Nobody teaches you that. You have to make it up on your own. You have to make the 1+1 on your own. Okay, so whereas we the people, when we the people make, but nobody also taught you that tribes were cannibalizing on anybody that would come around, and so there were active exploitations also towards like people that came to explore the land and so on and so forth. And the indigenous saying, oh, your forefathers were the founders of this, or they arrived here with nothing, or something like this. My forefathers were there to meet you, is not always true. To greet them, sometimes they greeted them with rape and beheading and murder and whatnot. Okay, so they returned with, we have viruses and diseases that are just brought from Europe. So even those narratives of power are again, yes, addressed. The awareness of the praxis of not being inclusive, whether towards women, towards children, and hushing things which is happening within the family, within the tribe, those makes families susceptible to world events, and those make tribes susceptible, and those make nations susceptible. Okay, Israel before October 7 began to be a bit fundamentalist. Okay, women could not go on buses on freaking Sharon area, which is like the most secular central Israel place. And they could not go on buses. I had to start to argue for their position in society. You see that no good thing, no good will come from that. Um, and of course, when the women who were the observers, they were reporting weeks and weeks before the 7th of October, they got the directive that from very, very high rank above, they were threatened that they shouldn't talk about this. And who would they speak to? Maybe the international community, which of course is no different than Israel. So if you get that, and so the 7th of October happened. Yes, and then if people are more busy in denying rape, um, and in their oppressor oppressee, they are less paying attention to the fact that this is not happening in the Middle East. It is happening globally, and every village, every place has a narrative that is going to be the local movie. Okay, so with Maui, it was very obvious. The whole place was burned down except for Oprah Winfrey's house. Yes, it was Oprah Winfrey's. Was it? Whoopi Goldberg. Sorry, Whoopi Goldberg. Oprah Winfrey had another thing, like so. Never mind. Okay, but if you knew, if in Israel you knew, it's like we are Maui, not the 7th. It was like clearly. I think I was saying, I don't know, to Lada, we are Maui. And she got me immediately. She understood what's up, because she knew something like this was coming, but how do you communicate that to people? And if you're too busy with the masquerade of the discourse, then you're not paying attention that people, just like in Israel, if people are too busy with what's happening in Gaza, they're not paying attention that the central cities, people have been abducted, and there's no, first they were hushing this, now they're giving a little bit of candies, that suddenly people go missing and we are looking for them, supposedly. So yeah, that's what's up in the United States. If you live in the United States and you haven't been paying attention, you think that you are funding a genocide. No, darling, if genocide is funding you, United States is not providing weapons for Israel, she's selling weapons to Israel. So, and why am I saying genocide providing you? I don't address only like the issues in Gaza. I address the issues in Israel, the medical welfare, the kidnapping of people, what's happening in central cities. And this is not Israel, it is 2030. And it looks like Israel's very limited power regarding that. Why? It has to do with exploitable children, with expandable children, and the fact that worldwide you cannot get into a position of a decision maker, not in the army, not in the juristic system, Supreme Court, not in the government ranking, some ranking of the parliament, maybe only very marginalized, but I don't know, okay, or even celebrity higher positions, without being a member of some pedophile ring. And I explained why before that. Okay, I was exposed to this a couple of times, but one of the times I remember I wanted to take responsibility for my financial situation, and I learned about like investments, and I ran into the word trust, and I was like, what's a trust? Like you how do they trust each other? That would lead to a series of revelations, because if you can extort someone, you can blackmail someone, then you trust them, because they are afraid of being exposed, and pedophile rings are very good for this trust card. So this is what needs to change in society. We need to find ways of being reliable and trustworthy that are good for humanity. And with that, I'll end.